Is this anybody's very first Zoom event? It's been a year of this now.
Joel.
Unfortunately, it's not even my first one today.
Yeah.
And mine neither.
Remember that children's show with the song, "We're gonna zoom, 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 zoom." Anybody remember that song? I
No.
guess you have to be really old like me to get it.
Where are we coming from? Where are you folks?
I'm in Topeka.
Topeka.
Yes, I'm in Topeka also.
Let's hear it for Topeka.
Philadelphia.
I see Oregon and Kansas City.
Eastern
And,
Shore, Virginia.
and is this, what is this area code 701? Who is that?
That's North Dakota. Wow.
Okay,
Nice.
Oregon.
great.
Philadelphia.
Washington State. North Carolina.
Oh,
Hey, Kaisa.
Hey, Brian.
Great to see, well, great to have you here anyway.
hello, I am Lindsay Garcia. I am Meadowlark Press's publicist, and I will be your host tonight. I'm so thrilled about this event. It is one that I have been looking forward to for a few months now, and I can't believe it's here. So thank you all for making it possible and for joining us tonight. Tracy Million Simmons up here, if you see her, with Meadowlark Press. She is our publisher and makes this Birdy Poetry Prize possible. So thank you, Tracy.
I want to welcome everybody to the celebration of the Birdy Poetry Prize. We are so pleased to have our winners and finalists gathered here in one spot for the very first time. And I don't know that this could have happened any other way than virtually, because we are really spread out. Thank you to Carol and Ruth and Jessica and Brian for joining us this evening. I'm really looking forward to the readings. And as a thanks to all of you, I want to give just a little pitch here. As you all know, April is Poetry Month, and I do hope that you're planning to celebrate Poetry Month with Meadowlark poets. And as a thank you, I have set up a coupon in the Meadowlark bookstore. If you use the code BIRDY, B-I-R-D-Y, you get 10% off any book now through the end of the month of April. So if you don't already own books by our wonderful poets this evening, I encourage you to run right over and buy a collection of them. Remember that we have a $4 flat fee shipping option, so you should make the most of your coupon and your purchase by selecting multiple Meadowlark books before you check out. That's it. Thank you for coming, and I'm going to pass it back to Lindsay.
Thanks, Tracy. We love poetry sales. Get as many poetry books as you can. All right, so here in just a minute, you are going to hear from our 4 Birdy poets plus our 5th Birdy poet as of today. And we will have lots of fun surprises for you sprinkled throughout. Then after poetry, we are going to open the floor for any questions or comments. Hey folks, are you ready for some poetry? First up, we have Ruth Moss. Ruth, a native of Topeka, Kansas, has pursued a love of learning around the world, with languages, curiosity, and appreciation for all beings a constant thread. She is the author of the 2019 Birdy finalist book, Valentine.
Yes, I'm reading, all of these poems are from my book, Valentine, which is available through the Meadowlark website and other places. And I even have an audio copy now too, if you'd rather get it that way. I'm going to start out with a poem called The Convenience Store Clerk. This actually happened, this experience, and it prompted me to write a poem. The young man wore his misery as a skin. More than the taxidermy for his meat, it was the impasse of his cells, the glue grip of his respirations. It was his cardboard voice accusing, "What do you want?" And the intravenous mud, transfused and slow dripped throughout some fingernail hanging life. The customers purchased some barbecue chips and a lottery ticket, but no one would touch the shriveled hot dogs. This is by racy poem. It's as racy as I ever write anyway. It's called Last Tango in DC. Once you courted me, attentive swain, all ardor and peanut butter, teasing tango, let's tango, lubricated passes and long-stemmed roses. You and me, friend, you wouldn't lie, will now crescendo in 2/2 tempo. We rose up tux and organdy, tongue and salt juice skin, torque and piston. We whirled and moved the world, or so we thought, tangled and hot, or maybe not. This is another poem that actually happened. It's called Dove Season. Something that I observed looking out my window in the backyard. Dove season. Little gray dove, how did you decode the foreigner's thrumming? I am so lonely. To accept its invitation, it was just a white plastic bag snared in the maple tree, the ubiquitous flag of a nation surrendering to trash. But you perched at its side for hours, a splendorous lady taking tea with the chateau's pale host while pretending to admire the tapestries. When you finally collected your veins and your feathers, your coos and your flutters, you flew south and it was over. The puff of your soft exit, the extinguishment of a candle after the party expires. But the white bag calls out, come back, with its cannon shot whipping and snapping, its ugly song of longing, immune to uncertain seasons and their fickle little gray memories. A lot of times I write in rhyme and meter, and this is a poem like that. It's somewhat of a takeoff on Robert Lowell's poem, Waking Up Blue, which was a famous poem. This is my skewed version called Waking in the Pink. The night shift cook, a Votech grad, exits the cooler, cold and blue. Another paunchy, deadbeat dad whose shift is through. The fog is vaguely curious the way day breaks at Grape and Grill. This is his house, his terminus, a gin mill. He flips off Stanley at the bar with real politic and nerve for bragging of his Bronze Star. What purpose does it serve? What use his poems or his flan, both rubbery with little joy, the whimpers of a boogeyman, once an altar boy. He notices a screwball dame settling in to drink her fate, recalls how his ex-wife became twice his weight. He pauses, orders ginger ale, a shaky twinkle finds his face and signals her a fresh cocktail, just in case. Maybe the day will not be blue, distracted by this sticky flower. He'll see what his pickup lines will do. Give it an hour. And the last one, a little bit more of an upbeat poem called Communities. Can tadpoles with no obvious pectoral fins consider cocker spaniels and stockbrokers their twins? Can the bishop embrace the turpentine and debris from branches of roaches on his family tree? If the village idiot were not our king of bones, if our sharpened knives were plowshares or rhinestones, would happiness envelop all whose sentience flows from the tributaries of connectedness. Still, the old woman sweeps the floor of her hut and sighs as the mayor nickers for bran and maybe French fries. And crocodiles shed tears and repo men repossess, and the universe wears a starry organza dress. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ruth. That was really fun.
Thank you.
Great variety. All right, next we have Carol Kapaun Ratchenski, author of the 2019 Birdy winner, A Certain Kind of Forgiveness. Carol is a lifelong resident of North Dakota, quote, where you can see the sky without ever looking up, and the open spaces demand art and sometimes love, end quote. She is a licensed professional counselor and the owner and operator of Center for Compassion and Creativity in Fargo, North Dakota. Her book, A Certain Kind of Forgiveness, is the winner of the inaugural Birdy Poetry Prize. Carol, take it away.
Thank you, Lindsay. Thank you for all you've done to make tonight possible.
My pleasure, thanks.
Yeah, I'm going to read a few poems from my book, A Certain Kind of Forgiveness, as Lindsay said. This first poem is really just about stages and phases of being a human animal, and it's called Love Many Things. I'm new. I like dirt and the color green and fuzzy warm milk, big hands, harps, the smell of mother, vanilla and mint, rocking and stretching and yawning. I'm young. I like knives and roller coasters, gravel roads, fireworks and feeling scared, adrenaline and hot pepper flakes and graveyards, the smell of sex, moonlight and noise. I'm in the middle and I don't know where to look. So much behind me, buried alive now under my feet. I don't like anything. I'm grieving and I'm restless and I'm clinging. I'm old. I like soft things. Large vocabularies in men and strong, straight teeth in women. Honey and sidewalks and clean laundry on the line. Lilies, rainstorms, children, and evergreen trees. I'm letting go. I like wind and lemon pie, worn out towels and flannel sheets, feather pillows, cardinals, and all the empty space between my thoughts, laughing and crying and forgetting. And this is dark and red. Latin American fiction, because it's sticky and heated. A grandfather chained to a tree, chocolate running down her legs, ghosts who sing in Latin at a communion rail that bursts into flames. South of the equator, original in Spanish, my northern heart knows to crave this. Colorful full skirts, stone houses, painted pastel and shuttered, full brows, barrel chests, dark, strong, warm men. Below navels and under a red moon, drumming, yearning, coffee with chilies, thorny flora, olives, and opium. It's a different season, an upside down calendar. My stomach settles at last around everything I want. This next poem does what I think a lot of poems do. They take a moment and they just hold them and observe them and let you be with them. Not necessarily with any conclusion or figuring that moment out, but this is a moment that showed up in this poem. The poem is Dying Stars. I danced with my lover at her wedding. I cried when her sister couldn't or wouldn't come. She cooks and I bring salad, dessert, real whipped cream over raspberries, a pie, or a cobbler for 4. We watch the years flow over us. more wrinkles, old lovers who reappear. We can't remember if we read that novel or not, or just saw a movie trailer that reminded us of it in some distant, yearning way. On her birthday, I bring cake in the right number of candles, though they cover the top and sprout from the side like wildly independent sparklers on the 4th of July. It's a waxy mess, strong coffee, Kahlua, piñata. She kneels on the ground, picking up the airplane-sized vodka and whiskey bottle splayed by her strikes. She's too close to the fire. Maybe she's drunk. Her pants slide down, revealing way too much. I grab her. Others call to her, be careful, step back, watch your hair, watch your sweater. Out of the corner of my eye, I see her husband look on without expression, sees her falling and sees me seeing him. Then he looks up at the night sky, clear, alive, and sparkling with the lying light of so many dead stars. If you have had, and some of you probably have, I see some North Dakotans joining us, the experience of driving west across North Dakota, there's a moment where the gray gravel turns red. And suddenly the roads are red, and it's a stunning moment. And I think especially a stunning moment if that red road leaves home. And this is called The Ghosts of Killdeer. As soon as the gravel road turned from gray to red, my grandmother was happy, suddenly humming to the radio, dreaming of riding or roping, of her brothers, of Sunday afternoon sunburns, of home. Like a midnight raid, marriage had uprooted her, tossed her into town, my grandfather's bed, and his ill-fated businesses, and a restlessness that she tried to believe didn't rhyme with hopelessness. And the last poem I'm going to read is a prose poem, which is still my favorite kind of poetry to write and to read. I fell in love with Margaret Atwood's book, Murder in the Dark, in the early 80s and never looked back from prose poetry. So my first book is called A Beautiful Hell and has a lot of prose poetry in it, and also a lot of exploration of family grief. This has a little nod to that and is also a prose poem. It's called My Sister's Gun. There's a seat at the bar reserved for me because I was supposed to show up, because I was predictably thirsty, because I was raised Catholic, and what we do before, during, and after funerals and wakes, body visitations and rosaries and burial masses is we drink. We drink cheap wine and later whiskey. We tell the bartender to be generous. We're just coming from the undertaker. We've picked up clothes and hymns and verses. Fill us up, we're cold. Fill us up, we're still breathing. Fill us up. The dead would raise one with us if they could. I'm not hungry and I can't sleep. I have forgotten if it's Tuesday or Friday or midnight. Still, it's jazz, it's tuna fish hot dish, it's Folgers coffee and Jell-O bowls. We drink to get through this. We drink to remember. We drink to history and fiction blended into a blurry cocktail. My sister has now forgotten most of it. Just last week, 2 decades later, she asks me if when we were cleaning out the house, did she claim a shotgun? Did she give her share of the ammunition to our brother? Or did she say, no, I'll take an extra piece of jewelry instead? Well, either way, now she wants a gun. She wants her gun. One of my father's or my grandfather's, smooth wooden shaft and cold hard trigger. She wants what she needs. This legacy. Men walking shelter belts, boys shouting, a bottle of schnapps, a campfire, the smell of gunpowder, and family. She wants to shoot her gun. She wants to learn how. She doesn't want to go buy a pistol. She deserves her own legacy of homicide and 16-point antlers, a full bag, a pheasant in the cast iron Dutch oven, down jackets, camouflage, and orange, and walking for miles with this purpose. Not an extra brooch or a sapphire ring, something blue that might match my dead mother's eyes or my sister's own. eyes that didn't see the future that day, the coming need for sudden loud noises, followed by blood. I'm so happy to be part of tonight. Lindsay, thanks again. Tracy, thanks to you too. And congratulations to the new winner.
Thank you so much, Carol. That was really great. Our third Birdy poet is Brian Daldorf. Brian is the author of the 2020 Birdy finalist book, Kansas Poems. Brian teaches at the University of Kansas and at the Douglas County Jail. He serves as editor for Coal City Review. Kansas Poems is his 8th and newest poetry collection. Brian, let's have you take it away.
Thank you to Lindsay and Tracy. Thank you to Carol and Ruth. It's just been great to be part of this Meadowlark community, and thank you all for coming to this reading today in the way that we do things now, the Zoom way that we do things now. This is rather a sad occasion for me. My very close friend Antonio Sanchez Day, who some of you know, died this week. It was much too early. He was 44, had so many more things to do in the world. We have one book by Antonio, and I'm hoping that there will be more, but it's a huge loss to us. So I'm dedicating what I read tonight to Antonio. And I'd like to begin by reading one of his poems from his book, Taking on Life. I met Antonio in the jail class that I teach at Douglas County Jail, and Antonio did amazing things in just remaking his life and working with other people and helping other people in his situation. He brought this poem to a poetry class at the jail one time, and he read it to us, and honestly it's one of the best poems that I've ever heard, and I'd like to I'll read this one from his work. Penitentiary Protocol. When you arrive, read the sign. Leave all hopes and dreams behind. Forget all you have or had in the free world. It no longer matters. It will only distract you, and you'll become prey to the lions in this jungle. Trust no one. Everyone is out for something in this cutthroat society. Stick with your own kind, your race and or your set, your choice. Mind your own business, keep to yourself. Don't gossip like a girl. Have respect. Don't let no one disrespect you. Don't gamble or run a debt you can't pay. Learn to like the sight and smell of blood. It surrounds you. Prepare to witness the evil men do. Find your primal survival instinct. It could be the difference between life and death. Finally, make peace with God or your higher power. You're going to need it. Thanks, Antonio, for what we did have together. You meant a lot to all of us. I'd like to read a number of poems from my book, Kansas Poems. And again, thanks to Carol and Ruth, that was terrific. Really love those poems, and I look forward to reading them more closely. The first poem in the book is really topical. We're just at this point now with spring arriving. So I wanted this to be the first poem in the book because it's just that moment of hope every year when we see the first flowers, and that means so much to all of us, I think. So this is called Unfreezing. First daffodils outside City Hall, facing south. Spray of crocuses in the front yard of 829 East 13th. And in his heart, all the flowers of spring, waiting only for warmth. And then this is also from the spring section of the book. And this is the poem that Jessica posted a video about, which was wonderful, and thanks to her for doing that today, and hope everything's going well for her in her exciting mission today. Magnolia in May, Lawrence, Kansas. What we did in my parents' garden, we should have done for our marriage. Plucked off brown, withering petals of the magnolia, dropped them in a black bucket so strong new buds could push through. My mother showed us how to do it. We did it in her garden, didn't do it at home, and then it was too late for flowers. And then this one is from Huascar, the wetlands there, beautiful wetlands on the Huascar Native American College campus. And this is something that I read about, and I just thought it was so interesting and tied in with what I knew of Huascar. So this is called white egrets. White egrets covered the wetlands like snow, before it became high fashion for women to wear white feathers in their hats, and egret feathers were worth more than gold. A few white egrets return each year, ghosts that whisper, "Kill us, and you kill yourselves." But no one's listening. Also from the spring section of the book, the book is organized into the 4 seasons that just seem to make sense with the set of poems. Jerry's house in spring. This is a house that I stayed at when I was a grad student. Jerry's house in spring. Goddamn doors standing wide open. Somebody thinks summer's here. Thus my landlord greets spring while I listen to Vivaldi. Springs when Jerry shuts down the furnace, which cooked us all winter, and heaves his Florida orange tree onto the porch. Springs for cussing all Sunday afternoon in the yard at his goddamn truck, which won't start. Then at Martha, his woman, who cusses back, while their little Jolene saws her violin. That was me as a graduate student. In this book, there are a lot of references to Kansas places, and some of them are more kind of mythological, you might say. And this poem is just about that urge that some of us have, maybe all of us have, that we just want to go and be nowhere sometimes. So for a poem like that, I thought I should just invent a place to go to. So this is called Mason City, Kansas. And I don't think there is a Mason City, Kansas, apart from in this poem, but that's as I wanted it. In the Green Lantern Motel, I light a cigarette, pour wine in a plastic cup, feel better, feel the weight lift from my bones. 3 days ago, I drove out of town, across the Flint Hills, into darkness, and stopped in this small town, Abe's Diner, Quick Shop, and Dollar Store. I needed to be nowhere. At night, I walk by the river where fireflies weave their magic, watch the kids at Goose Park. It takes time to get the sadness out. I light another cigarette. We have the fireflies coming, don't we, in summer, and that's one of the best things about Kansas, the beautiful fireflies. Looking forward to that. Just 2 or 3 more poems. This one is for my friend, John Musgrave. Some of you might have seen John in the Vietnam War series by Ken Burns. John was one of the featured veterans in that series, and he has a new autobiography coming out probably in November now. But I've known him for a long time now, and really one of the best speakers that I've known, and has done great work for veterans everywhere. This is called Tug of War. My friend John was so badly wounded in Vietnam that he knew he was dying. He'd seen a lot of guys with chest wounds like his wound, sucking wound, and none of them survived it. He prayed, he tried to make his peace with God. Then by some miracle, he's still trying to figure out he did survive it. Spent 18 months in the hellhole of hospital recovering from that wound. When he staggered out of hospital, all he wanted to do was to go back to his war, where he had a gun in his hand and knew who his enemies were, where he knew his buddies would never let him down. No one could say he hadn't done his part, so surely he could go home now. But all he felt was the tug of war. And then I'll finish with this one. This is the last poem in the book, and it's called Estate Sale. And it just seemed appropriate that this should be the last poem in the book. This was my neighbor, an old lady who lived next door for a number of years. And then when she died, there was an estate sale outside her house. And it was rather a kind of sad affair, and just made me think about kind of what we leave behind when it's our time to go. Estate sale. All day Saturday, a crowd at my neighbor's house on 13th Street, empty for 5 years. The auctioneer rattles off his call, $1, $1, $1.50, $1.52. There's not much left of her life. Boxes of junk sold off as lots for a few dollars to traders in bib overalls and baseball caps. 23 chairs, good for firewood on the sidewalk. Thermometer registering 53 degrees in February sun. Sunday morning birdsong and the odd car. Outside her house, by 13th Street, the leftovers of her life. Brass floor lamp, split cushions, old books and pictures, wet through from last night's rain. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Brian.
Yeah.
Though Jessica cannot be here, they did want to participate in the reading and made a video for us. So I am going to share that video with you now. Jessica Mehta is an interdisciplinary artist, poet, and author of several books. As a citizen of the Cherokee Nation, space, place, and ancestry inform much of their work. Metta has served as the editor-in-chief of Crab Creek Review. They have been awarded a number of art and research fellowships, as well as a number of literary awards, including the 2020 Birdy Poetry Prize for their book Selected Poems 2000 to 2020. Poetry and residency posts have taken Metta to Crazy Horse Memorial, the Shakespeare Birthplace Trust, and Huascar Arts Lab.
But I'm here virtually to share with you some of my poems from my collection Selected Poems 2000 to 2020, which was curated and edited by Brenna Crotty of the Calyx Journal here in Oregon, which is also where I'm from and where I am at when making this video. So yeah, let's dive in and get started. I never choose poems in advance because I feel like I'm just not feeling it maybe in the moment. So I'm going to start actually with the opening poem, Editor's Notes. This was an interesting collection to put together because Brenna put it together for me. I just gave her access to 20 years of writing. It's always interesting to see what other people choose instead of yourself. And apologies in advance if I stumble over the words that I wrote myself. Editor's Notes. Did all this really happen? Did those people really die? Did you seriously try to kill yourself? I imagine it would be real hard to pretend, to fake it, even in writing, which some of those people told me I'm good at. Yes, it all happened. Maybe I mixed up the dates, left some pieces out, like the tonsils or kidneys, parts we're born with that don't matter much. Of course, they all died, the whole lot. Even after we promised not to, even when I thought he was evergreen. I worked the funerals in somnambulism, skipped the celebrations of life altogether, and yes, I suppose I truly did try to kill myself, although it didn't start out that way. I didn't know there's only one end to disappearing, one final vanishing act. I'm still not sure who pulled me out, why my fingers weren't strong enough to hold fast to the dirt, my feet not fast enough to kick away those helping hands. My death is the real slow one, built on flirtations with the earth, erotic asphyxiations, and a breath play along a silently decaying fulcrum. Everybody else was so much faster, so slippery, so better at all this than me. Place setting. I've never belonged at any table, but I passed the salt and looked up which fork to use in an etiquette book. All my family's dead, so nobody's left that knows there is an Indian girl with a sick head who grew up poor and sometimes likes to fuck women gone and snuck into the school fete. They don't look too close because I got no color and haven't been homeless in years. Taught myself how to talk right with sitcoms these days. I only slip up sometimes, usually when the drinks kick in or in catching the smell of a fellow interloper, overlooked, uninvited guest, and we smile, tight lips coating teeth because a feast is always better when it's free and a gorging always sweeter for the starved. How about some lattes and a labiaplasty? That's the title of the poem, or if that's what you're into. How good are you at unpacking? Real damn good and fast. I beat everyone at emptying the suitcase after vacation. No, I mean your feelings, your emotions. Oh, real fucking good. I slammed those things into drawers and closets so quick you can't be certain, not totally, that was a stain you saw on the sleeve. All these new words are so careful. The phrase is so contrived. Nobody wants to be all woman. And here I am apologizing for not envying his cock or whipping out credit cards for labiaplasty. On the inside, I picture a half-man goat sucking a flute when I say I'm pansexual, such a ridiculous word for lust without limits. Who cares who I bed or what my testosterone levels are today? Unpack this, dismantle that, something about patriarchy, and pretend women have zero privileges. How is this for privilege? I pass as white, and all the freedom that carries. Will never be falsely accused of rape, and when I wear high heels, I trade perceived weakness for doors held open and comped lattes with foam like winning orgasms. We set the price, finger the terms, and choose by the day the space we spoon from this world. An anorexia thing. It's an anorexia thing. We watch our hair fall like drunks, tangled between bony fingers in the shower, while the down on our arms, face, chest flourish in a sad attempt to keep us warm. We shake like old women in apartments others call roasting as they slip off their jackets so we can judge the fat of their arms, slabs of flesh jiggling fresh as meat on hooks. The thing about anorexia is we love our bodies. Like an abusive boyfriend loves his woman, an alcoholic loves the bottle as a junkie loves the next taste. How thin can I get before the bones break through the skin? How much less can I weigh before I float down the streets? A ghost to the masses, but an angel to few. We don't talk about it, but I recognize my own, and it's staggering in the war zone. My body, myself. I've put you through so much and still you hold me up, shaky legs and bumpy arms. The years I fed you scraps. At best, you lapped up every crumb, used each speck to carry on. The times I beat you stupid beyond the ability to stand, flinch from the traumas, or keep fists above breastbone. Remember the time I slipped you the ecstasy, only it was some kind of speed meth monster that left us lurching in the Atlanta heat. Me, I would have left me by now, long ago, but you stayed solid through the disrespect, the slaps, the ridicule, and pummeling abuses, and not once did you break. give up for good, didn't gather all your everythings, but stood tall on two long legs and screamed, demanding for more. Look at all the beautiful. Kept private like our genitals are supposed to be, you'll find the good trails, the ones nobody talks about, where blackberry brambles shoot through old bark chips like zombie hands, and spiders weed wet threads licking your face. Come dawn, it's not easy keeping quiet, cradling secrets. Like children, they get loud and heavy, they squirm and you want to drop them, see their little heads explode like watermelons. I wanted to show you, look. How the trail spreads her legs like an unabashed woman. Choose your fork and trust. Look how the creeks and rivers bore their own way, not giving a damn for the carnage. See me here, grinding through the morning light, and once more look, just look at all the beautiful. This is a recipe for an Indian, and actually, a couple of hours ago in a panel for some of my doctoral research, I was asked this question. I haven't been asked this in a while. And I mentioned where it was because I don't know why we would think this, but you would think people who have spent so much time in academia would know better. I don't know why we would think that. They don't. Recipe for an Indian. How much Indian are you? All of it. Red velvet proofs deep in my folds, fry bread thighs undercooked, whipped meringue, cheekbone peaks, and a blackened cut of feather tattoo, marinating over childhood scars, biopsy stitches, and mole seasonings from a life of willing the sweetness burning inside to rise, rise, rise. Next, I'm going to share Bad Indian, which is also the title of a different collection that was published in 2020, but it was written prior to when Elizabeth Warren was a contender. Bad Indian, not a speaker. Who gives a damn if they beat it out of my father in residential boarding school? They say pretendian, and an old man with creamed blue eyes cackled after demanding my ancestry. Everyone's a Cherokee. I apologize for green eyes, pale skin. It's not enough to soften cries of Wannabe clan. Elizabeth Warren all over again. Once an elder vet spit on my wanting cheekbones, my braids, that I didn't know Lakota. I did not choose my skin or the trauma curdling rancid through my blood. We are born into creation, disasters, settled war zones, armed with chance defenses. So forgive me that ivory is my weapon. Poachers try and they show teeth, dressed in polyester and crafted altruism. But I am fast and I remember. I'm Kamama. You really think you got us all? We still roam our land. 13,000 years is a single heartbeat in the whole story. I am telling you, listen. I am hungry, matriarch, made too young. My grief's too big to contain, and like Domini, I will starve. 24 days to die from broken chambers, and by God, how you will keen, spill cracked bone to your knees. Pay homage to my skeleton, to this bad Indian. So Kamama is the Cherokee or Saligi word for elephant. Domini was an elephant who I believe was born into captivity and was bonded with her mate for over 20 years. And when her mate died, she starved herself and she killed herself 24 days later. Oh, and by the way, I once asked, okay, if Kamama is the Saligi word for elephant, how did they even know elephants? Yeah, elephants were in North America 13,000 years ago. I didn't know that. Maybe you didn't know that. Maybe you did. And so I'm well aware that a lot of what I write is depressing. I'm a poet. I know a lot of people don't really like the term confessional and it's out of date anyway, but I do consider myself a descendant of confessional poetry, which means 90-something% of what I write is factual and true, including this one. And I like to put this in here to show that I don't only write sad things. It's called a consenting platypus. The septuagenarian served me tea in the garden of her thatched roof British cottage. Between spoons of fish pie and too much Prosecco, I told her about the best-selling erotica I ghostwrite, how people don't like sex until at least chapter 19. She asked me about bestiality, which of us animals are the nastiest. No, incest and animals are my hard lines. That's too bad, she demurred. It's incredible what one can do with a consenting platypus, which apparently was a book, maybe a fiction book, hopefully, that she offered to lend me, and I politely declined. The next thing I'm going to share with you is Pulitzer Prize. I don't know if you can see, look at the top there, there's some asterisks in there, which is kind of like my way of doing a redaction, because I mostly write true things. And I never know how to verbalize that, so I'm just going to do this where the asterisk is. Pulitzer Prize Pig spoke of what it means to be as a man with a look, the look, that look. Women were born knowing how to read. I knew that look, the look at 15 when the AP teacher crouched beside my desk in the dark while flashes of syphilis and gonorrhea shuddered across the projector screen. Still, even now, I hear the tired clicking of the tapes. I knew the look, saw a look at 11 when grown men whistled at my unfolding hips and high school boys rolled Corollas along middle school parking lots with eyes that spider scurried pressed breasts. And I knew I saw that look, his look at 3. In the bathtub, I learned shame. I shot my father in the eye with a plastic alligator squirt gun and never bathed with open doors again. Pulitzer Prize Pig sidled up close, nosed for nipple drinkers and sniffed out my slop. Trough walls are low but sticky, slick beside sties, and boars are happy with scraps. Right, next up, I'll share with you the temporary nature of being. I mentioned that I'm in the Portland area. I actually live in the outskirts now. I used to live where it was like right outside my door, the West Hills, if anybody knows the area. So a lot of my work in these 2 decades were written about and inspired by, like the word inspired, that area, including this one. Bedded down in the woods, the houses rest on stilts, dangerous, dangling like sleeping children on top of bunks. We tiptoe like gluttons across the Cascadia faults as if the sweets stuffed in cupboards and ice cream cradled in freezers are fair trade for our lives. The experts call us woefully unprepared as we bow tangled heads over sugary cereal, the morning news unable to shop. Tsunamis overseas, floods on the East Coast. We're so sure nothing can touch us here, not in the Wild West, never where gold rushes raged or martinis were brought to life. Forest hugs me close, the occasional sharp, thorny fingernails tracing taut calves or hoggish spider webs licking my face. One day soon, it will all come crashing down. The West Hills homes, indie bands made famous. The teetering decks like behemoths, dumb and feeble scarecrows in the sky. I think I'm not sure if I'll end on this or not because I've never read this one before to see how dense it is. I've never read it aloud before because it's really meant to be read on the page. So this is a lipogram. It's a form of poetry that was invented in 1960s Paris. And you won't be able to hear this, but basically, this is murdered and missing Indigenous women. There is no M in the first stanza. There is no U in the second one. There is no R in the third. And it spells out murdered and missing Indigenous women by what is missing. And you can see right there, that's a little ampersand. So that's the and. Let's see how it goes. A girl gotta grow up, leave the res, and do we talk about it? A Guido called twice for bail, but both were after a Tahlequah fall, and high with opioid, they drove right through a gate. bolted up the highway, bare feet and all, hitched a ride via lifted truck to take her far away before 911 with the devil up and took the car. Dad left right out of jail, headed to the Pacific, and gave away that plot of Cherokee a year later. You'd have hated it, and I probably would have. No folks gonna talk of them gone ones anymore. They look at me all, got some blessing on y'all. After all, no cop has got me yet. No reason, really. Everyone else, the whole family, gone and seared to memory the creak of a cell's cot frame long ago. None of y'all can fathom at the place is gonna call for me. They gone and settled prefrontal cortex, and that seems an okay place to some. At 15, we three bunked all day for an aged Ouija game. We'd all be dead by 23, and we laughed and made a bet for the chance. An ATV ate Ann at 18, and then a fancy cable hung by Althea came next. Hadn't even nudged me for that plan. And when death happened that way, we can't talk any decent way. No one talking anything of funeral 1 or 2, and I kept lookout for a face I knew while the Catholic father went on and on about killing another or you and praying for both. Father, what type of native turned Catholic anyway? Who tucked that in their brain all through junior year? Neither talk of church or nothing. Creator not have any way to fix it then. Who up and say, so long to that God? Why do Indians stand for that national song? So many of us wash away, walk away, drag and drug away, and nobody's coming back from that havoc of war. Some of us hate a couple, woe, tacked to the first of what we call big boys. But with Saliki, it's fixed. Asgea male, Agea female. What makes that M all a mess? Wave wide those legs and smile. It's the first of the alphabet debut of music, the call of us made as we slipped to this place, and maybe that's the space of us Agea go to. The alpha, the basis, the middle of this wasted home. I ran away still a kid, and my mama said, why, until pills kicked in. With my dad and sis, love y'all was last. With my mama, I try and say, I try. When they ask where we went, where we go, why gone permanent cloys and flanks so close, why holes and channels swallow with ease, and no one asks or even seems to say that spring. Remember, those who are gone never go that far. We are here, we stay. To be forgotten means an agreement's complete. That's not ever gonna happen. And thank you for spending time with me. Thank you to Tracy and Lindsay at Meadowlark for putting this together and for putting up with my crazy schedule. I hope y'all enjoy your evening. Stay safe and take care of yourselves and each other.
Just going to jump right in. We had more than 100 entries this year, which is just amazing, and I feel so honored to be reading poetry from all over the country. Meadowlark was just a small little project for so long, and all of a sudden it feels like we're everywhere, and it's very exciting to be just to have all of this input from so many different places. So I'm going to start with the announcement of the semifinalists. And I think we have a graphic here. And these are in no particular, well, they're alphabetical by manuscript name. So our semifinalists for 2021, By Fire by Rhonda Slada from Vallejo, California. Dragon Eggs by Beth Gully from Olathe, Kansas. Making Connections by Andrea Morrison, San Antonio, Texas. Set Me as a Seal Upon Your Heart by Gail Langstroth, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. When to Ask for Rain by Tyler Sheldon of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Whistling to Trick the Wind by Bart Edelman of Pasadena, California. And Who and What, a verse memoir by Walter Mosley, San Francisco, California. So those are our semi-finalists this year. We have our 2021 finalists. This is a little smaller group, our elites. We have Edge by Barbara Unger, Sarasota Springs, New York. Gatherer's Alphabet, Susan Kelly DeWitt of Sacramento, California. Last Selfie at Clallam Bay by Risa Denenberg, Sequim, Washington. I think Risa's here, maybe she can correct my pronunciation. Lilac and Sawdust by Kenneth Pobo of Medina, Pennsylvania, or is it Media, Pennsylvania? So those are our finalists. And now I am going to introduce our special guest tonight. We are very happy to have with us Huascar Medina. He's a poet, writer, and performer who lives in Topeka, Kansas, our capital city, for those of you who are not from Kansas. He currently works as a freelance copywriter and as the literary editor for 785 magazine, publishing stories that spotlight literary and artistic events in Northeast Kansas. His poems can be found in his collections, How to Hang the Moon and Un Mango Grows in Kansas, both published by Spartan Press. Huascar is the 2019 through 2021 Poet Laureate of Kansas, and he was the 2021 final judge for the Birdy Poetry Prize by Meadowlark Press. So thank you, Huascar. I'm going to let you introduce our winner.
Thank you, Tracy. I appreciate that. Thank you, and thank Lindsay for putting this together. I also want to thank everyone that read today. It's a wonderful experience to hear poetry from other winners and finalists from before, including Ruth, Carolyn, and we had 2 other readers today. I'm sorry if I don't remembering their name. Oh, Jessica. Jessica's the other one, and Brian Daldorf. The winner that I chose was for a particular reason. And the winner is, Alison Hicks, Knowing Is a Branching Trail. That particular poem, or a collection of poems, meant a lot to me. There's a sense of isolation, I think, that's occurring right now for a lot of individuals. And not knowing Alison Hicks and reading her poetry, I felt, without knowing who this individual was through their voices in their poems, that I found a companion, someone that I could connect with. And the poems allowed me space to feel, and to feel in a safe and free way without being judged or criticized for having feelings. A lot of the poetry that I read had a lot of emotion in it, and it just connected with me. And that matters a lot to me as a poet. I'm always searching for that great soft pause in poetry, that break between the line, that holds you for a moment. Carol spoke about that earlier, about holding on to a moment, not necessarily understanding it, but being able to feel it. And I think about that often because, one of my favorite poets, T.S. Eliot, does say that. He says that, the test is of poetry, that it is felt before it is understood. It communicates with you. So I felt like I was having a communication with this collection of poetry. And I look forward to everyone else who gets a chance to read this work, because I think you'll feel connected. And in a time where we are isolated, it's something that I think is very important to us right now. I believe this will be her 3rd collection of poetry that's being published. And what a great honor to be published as the 3rd, as the Birdy Poetry Prize by Meadowlark Press for 2021. And I'll write a blurb for you. Let me know what you, I'm here for that. I really appreciated the work. There was an instance where I was reading it, and I turned to my partner and I said, this particular poem was about the anxiety that we're feeling right now, with the pandemic. And that one and I've read a lot of pandemic poems over the past year. And I turned to my partner, I said, finally, someone that could speak about how I was feeling without criticizing what I was feeling. And that's what I picked up from the work early. And I learned to trust the words that were being shared with me. And I connected with it through that process of reading and judging. It's a humbling experience to be able to judge work from other poets and not know who they are, just to look at the words for its worth and its value. And not that any other collection that I read was less, it's just this one meant more to me. So thank you, Alison, for allowing me to read your work and sharing it and submitting, because that's courageous, to approach rejection constantly as a poet. So thank you for that.
Thanks, Huascar. And thank you, Alison. We are now going to have Alison share some of her poetry. So welcome, Alison. It's so nice to have you be a part of the Meadowlark family now. And we were so, so, so thrilled that you could be here to join us tonight. So thank you, thank you.
Hello, everybody. I'm really kind of overwhelmed by that introduction, Huascar, and thank you very much. It means a lot to me that my work connected with you. It really does. And thank you to Tracy and Lindsay. As Huascar mentioned, this is my third book. And as I said, I've been around the contest rounds a lot. And my other two books were published, which I was really thrilled about, but I didn't win a prize. And winning a prize is really special. And it's also just an honor in addition to having the book selected to read with Ruth, Carol, and Brian, and Jessica too, by extension. I also told Tracy and Lindsay that I feel special connection to Meadowlark because last August, to break up the long trip from our home in Pennsylvania to Colorado, where my son is a student at the University of Colorado Boulder, my family and I visited Tallgrass Prairie National Preserve. And we spent 2 nights in Emporia, and it was wonderful to get out of the car, first of all, but to discover this wonderful ecosystem and walk in this landscape. And it was a special time for the three of us who we spend a fair amount of have spent through my son's growing up a fair amount of time camping and hiking and canoeing and that sort of thing. It was actually so powerful to me that I wrote a poem after we got back home, and I'm going to start with that even though it is not in the book. So this is Tall Grass. I do not believe in an afterlife, but in a journey that carries us from one state of being to another. It happens in the time it takes to draw a breath that might be experienced as months or years. Say we open eyes in tall grass prairie, like the grasslands in which our species was born. Indian grass, blue stem, switchgrass, rosinweed, coneflower, bison, prairie dogs. Fires sweep through, controlling growth of trees. Wind blows us from this soft land into rising dryness, soapwood yucca, plains prickly pear, honey mesquite, shortgrass, blue grama, buffalo grass, hailstorms, blizzards, tornadoes, drought. Asinwadi, seen across the prairies, they look like a rocky mass. Ascend cottonwood to one-seed juniper, ponderosa, Douglas fir, quaking aspen, lodgepole, and bristlecone pine, blue spruce. And I meant to say that the Asinwadi is Cree for the Rocky Mountains. So now I will turn to some poems from the book. And because this is the Birdy Prize, and I happen to have a few poems about birds or that have birds in them, I thought I would read some about birds. So this is Starlings. 1. He was hanging by a leg from the gutter of our house. Dead, of course, by the time we noticed. He must have been scouting for a nest, and somehow his foot caught. There he stayed, tavern sign or tarot card, the hanged starling. 2. What did it mean? We wanted to know. How long had it taken for the bird to die? A human being would have yelled until someone heard and brought opposable thumbs to unhook what was caught. Was he stoic in the way we expect animals to be? Or had he made a sound we didn't recognize or understand? 3, it wasn't easy to reach him, so we'd let him hang all fall. And when it got cold, we came inside and forgot. In spring, we looked up from the patio and he was gone, loosened with icicles or taken by a squirrel or hollowed out so much hanging there that his body blew away. 4, shortly after we'd moved in, a starling fell down our chimney. He landed on the hearth, took a couple of jerky steps, then flew up, full wings, wider and stronger than I expected. My instinct was to duck, his to fly, so he made for the stairs, wing grazing my hair. He churned the air, beating and thrashing in that artificially enclosed space, the shelter we needed, having lost the fur that had protected us, his power, our diminishment. 5, once we gave it some thought, it wasn't so difficult to get him out. We turned off the lights in the house, kept the porch light on, then we opened the door. 6, we had a wire grate placed over the chimney. Sometimes they nest outside my office, in the space between the air conditioner and the windowsill. They make a song that isn't quite song, a low coo trill that enters just under the threshold of my hearing. Okay, here's the pelicans. You could be swimming along, minding your own when the shock of that body hits. Watch out, fish. Now that these flyboys are back, they live to tuck and drill down. They'll scoop you up, hinge back their gullets, snap them shut on a trip you're not coming back from. Pelicans fly low up the coast in formation with a few strokes, heads back, scanning the waves. They used to fly into Fisherman's Wharf for R&R until the authorities chased them off. Rougher and larger close up, lounging on the railings, strutting in their battered jackets, peering down their oversized beaks at the crowds gathered to get a look at the outlaws. And I'm going to end with this, which is it comes kind of in the middle of the book, and this to me is one of the most important poems in the book. Yellowbird. I want to believe in a world beneath this one, that the bird that flies across the lawn is a messenger, that if I follow her in my mind, I will come to a door. She will let me through to the underside of the world. I will look at my life from below, my son and husband walking, the bottom of their shoes. Other times I think, there is no door, nothing below, the bird flying bent on her own purposes, her color the outcome of natural selection. Nothing mystical, just the world working itself out. Hummingbirds are squeaking, dive bombing the feeder. I too, sitting right side up in this world. The bird keeps coming back. The bird speaking through me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alison. It's really nice to hear from you. And it's been really wonderful to hear from all of our other poets tonight. Oh my gosh, what a treat. Okay, folks, my gosh, you have all been so wonderful. Now it is your turn. We are going to open the floor for some questions and comments.
This has been a really great event. I've had a dream for a long time of doing like a big birdie event, but I was picturing everyone coming to Emporia and we get to show off our town and all our great restaurants and the pub, and maybe someday that will still happen, but this is excellent. And we have so many guests that probably couldn't make it if we did it live. So thank you.
So next time we make that drive, I might have to come back to Emporia because I didn't get to the pub. I noticed it.
Absolutely. And that goes for anyone here. If you come near Emporia, give me a call and I will show you all the great places.
Definitely. It's a beautiful, beautiful area.
This has been wonderful. Thank you all so much. The poetry, the I don't know, the ambiance of everything has just been marvelous. I am not a poet, but I'm a painter and writer, and so I could enjoy the wonderful words, but also the visual images that you were giving me. So thank you all.
Thanks, Barbara. We're really happy to hear that.
I would just like to echo that. I'm Rhonda Sloda, and it's just been a really, really sweet, wonderful evening. And so thank you very much. And thank you for having this prize. I was a semi-finalist, and I have been writing this work for 30 years. And it was very much about my father, who passed away a couple of years ago. And I finally had the courage to decide maybe I could send it out into the world. And so I'm gratified that it got some kind of recognition from you. So grateful for that. And it gives me just a deep sense of love. That's all I can say. Love for the language, love for the feelings that are nestled in these small situations that seem small but really aren't. And just all the great poetry that we've heard tonight. And I'm just want to thank you again. So my gratitude.
Do you mind me asking, Rhonda, did you write, was it Fire?
By Fire, yes.
Yeah, By Fire. That work informed me a lot about my relationship with my father. So I wanted to thank you directly, personally at this moment, because I have a very distant relationship with him. My father's a man of faith as well. And it meant a lot to me. So thank you for that.
Oh, thank you for saying so. Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you.
We're not poets, but we just wanted to say thank you. It was wonderful to hear all the different wonderful words and what people have to say.
Being in the arts as well, it did paint a picture in our minds of what everybody was saying, so we could visualize it. That was great.
Garcia, are you two responsible for Lindsay?
Yes.
Something to do with it.
Hi, Mom and Dad.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing her with us.
Oh, it's our pleasure.
I just wanted to say thank you. My manuscript was a finalist in this situation, in this prize, and it's just so encouraging to get some recognition as a finalist when you've been working very hard on a manuscript. But more so than that, I've dealt with a lot of presses and a lot of editors and a lot of people, and you folks are just wonderful, really, really respectful, really sweet, and really cognizant of what it means to enter a contest and to have your work judged. So I want to thank you for that.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for entering.
I know I've been a finalist in past, things, and I know it really does help keep you going, and I encourage anybody out there who's writing or semifinalists and finalists and those who didn't make that, persistence is really is really a lot of it, I just told a friend actually who said, well, I've been a finalist twice, but this manuscript keeps going. I said, well, if you've been a finalist, you'll get it published. You just have to be patient, but it's hard sometimes. So, congratulations to the semifinalists and finalists. I've been there.
Lindsay?
Yes.
Something to do with it.
Hi, Mom and Dad.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing her with us.
Oh, it's our pleasure. We're so glad she's found a wonderful place to share her poetry and her love and passion.
Yeah.
So thank you for having her.
We're very proud of her.
Very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Great to meet all you guys too. It's wonderful that she has a good poetry family.
Indeed, Kansas has meant a lot to me poetically, and being the spawn of artists, it's really nice to have so many different artists be involved in Kansas poetry things and poetry elsewhere. I think that's something we should do more of, is connecting all the arts. So thanks, Mom and Dad. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
We're proud of you.
Great job.
Risa, is that how I pronounce it?
Yes, that's correct. Hi.
Hello.
Hello. I live in Squim. Just to tell you how it's pronounced. It's Squim, like swim. It's on the Olympic Peninsula of, Washington State out here. It's very rural. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. I can see
yes.
Hudson Bay and Mount Baker sitting at my writing desk. I just wanted to say thank you. My manuscript was a finalist in this situation, in this prize, and it's just so encouraging to get some recognition as a finalist when you've been working very hard on a manuscript. But more so than that, I've dealt with a lot of presses and a lot of editors and a lot of people, and you folks are just wonderful, really, really respectful, really sweet, and really cognizant of what it means to enter a contest and to have your work judged. So I want to thank you for that.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for entering.
Yes, thank you. I'm happy to hear it.
I know I've been a finalist in past, things, and I know it really does help keep you going, and I encourage anybody out there who's writing or, semifinalists and finalists and those who didn't make that, persistence is really, is really a lot of it. So I just told a friend actually who said, well, I've been a finalist twice, but this manuscript keeps going. I said, well, if you've been a finalist, you'll get it published. You just have to be patient, but it's hard sometimes. So, congratulations to the semifinalists and finalists. I've been there.
Yeah, I was wondering if y'all would mind sharing a little bit about your process and how you get it narrowed down to semifinalists and finalists, and then what goes on to Huascar from there. I'm just kind of curious. Go ahead.
Yeah, we read. We have a small committee that reads the entries, and we kind of pull together the ones that strike us, and then we have a smaller committee that goes through those. And when we get them narrowed down, we try to send, I can't remember how many we sent Huascar, but our goal is to send about 10 to 12, I think. And then it's completely up to the judge at that point. And we have a guest judge every year. Well, this is our third year, but Huascar agreed to be our judge this year. And we said, this is what we've picked. And then he took his time reading them, and he gets to pick how many finalists to announce, and he gets to pick the winner. So.
And I'll chime in on that as the one that made the final decisions. It's at the end of the day, you reach a certain level of work where the craftsmanship across the board is equal. And the decision comes down to preference, to what connects with you, to what you feel is sincere and true for you. And that happens with any competition at any time. And, you know, being able to be a judge for this particular competition showed me why I don't submit that often, because it's a difficult process. You know, the work could be of its highest caliber, but sometimes it doesn't ring true with the individuals who are judging. And it has nothing to do with the craftsmanship of the work. It just has to do with life experiences and what emotions individuals are willing to feel, and what understandings they have within the world views as well. And I felt that within this process, I was like my own work would have not have even come close to being a finalist in this competition, you know, what's been published before. So it really comes down to the judging at the end of the day. And it says nothing about an individual's ability to write poetry. It really comes down to what the individuals who are judging decide they connect with. And it's not really a decision, it's really a feeling, you know. And I was just really gracious that it was narrowed down to a point where I didn't have to experience 100 manuscripts. Like, I don't know if I could have done that. I'm a very empathetic individual. And the ones that I got were wonderful. And yours was one of those which I felt were good. And I appreciate that question, because I think speaking from a judge's side, and being able to see what it's like to submit work, and knowing that sometimes it's just not, it doesn't connect with you, makes me feel better about every other time that I've been rejected, which is 90% of the time, you know.
Right. I will say, as publisher, I love having like working with these judges. We had Kevin with the first Birdy, and we had Stan Banks last year, and now Huascar. I love having someone else choosing. First of all, it's very hard for me, because I'm empathetic. Is that the word you use, Huascar?
Yeah.
I would be publishing everyone, and all of you who work with me. You know, I love your poetry more and more each time we read it, and you know, we spend so much time putting these books together, and by the time we're done, I feel, you know, I think I have ownership, or I feel as proud of it as you all do. But I think it's very important to have other people making these selections, so that everything isn't coming from my point of view. That definitely helps spread the diversity of what we're publishing, and get different voices that I wouldn't necessarily pick, but I always end up loving them just the same. So
I appreciate you saying that, Tracy, because, you know, if you choose the same judge every year, you're going to get the same work every year published. And there's so many diverse voices. And I think sometimes we don't realize that there's so many different ears as well, you know, to poetry. And when you bring in guest judges, you offer an opportunity for a larger mosaic of the voices in the community of poetry. So I appreciate that.
All right, folks. Well, this has been utterly delightful and really intense. A lot of feelings, a lot of really good sense of community here. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And we'll have plenty of more poetry for you in the future. Thanks for all of your support thus far, and I look forward to seeing you all again at another future point. So stay safe out there, have fun, and thank you for supporting the arts and Meadowlark Press.